So, jetzt habe ich auch mal einen Musiker bei mir, und zwar ist das der JC, der Schlagzeuger, der jetzt hier auch heute Abend natürlich ordentlich rocken wird. Da bin ich sehr gespannt drauf. So, how was it for you to play this tour till the last concert? What is your meaning about it?
It's been a fantastic experience. It's been, good times straight across the board. All the shows have been great. I mean, obviously the Austrian and Swiss shows were a little bit slower, I mean, for obvious reasons, but all the German shows have been totally off the hook, a couple of them maybe almost a little bit too much off the hook. There was a couple of times where it looked like things might get a little too crazy, but that's what a good rock show should be. It should be kind of right on the edge, and the tour's been great from that aspect. As far as working with everyone, it's been awesome. I've never been around a more professional group of people. Everyone has their act down, man. Everyone knows what they're supposed to do. It's cool. We go in like army ants, and just knock it down straight across the board. So yeah, good times all around.
Was there anything anywhere that doesn't happen like it should?
Well, in Osnabrück, the barrier, right? That was in Osnabrück. In Osnabrück, the barrier across the front of the stage, the guys who put it together didn't put it together right. Like early in the day, they just lined up the parts, and there's bolts in the bottom and the top of that thing, and I guess they only put the ones in the bottom, and I guess they were expecting that would be enough, but it's not. When you got, about 2,000 people going crazy, that barrier, if it's not put together right, something's gonna go wrong, and it almost did, and that was looking pretty hairy for a few minutes. It was looking like it was one of those situations where it's like one little thing away from being like, okay, right now it's a good story. Oh, remember that time in Osnabrück when the barrier almost broke down? Well, there's a tiny difference between remember that time when the barrier almost broke down and remember that time when the barrier broke down and someone got hurt really bad. There's a really fine line between that, and luckily it stayed on that side of the line, because we were all kind of hanging back looking like, oh man, this could go wrong really quick. And, luckily it didn't. Everyone really got on top of things and, fixed it, and everything was cool. One guy did get thrown out, this little instigator. There's always one guy, and that's all it takes is one guy to turn it from, like I'm saying, a good story to a tragedy, and there was this one guy. I was standing up in the bleachers trying to fix the barrier. Thomas and all the security guys are like feverishly trying to fix this barrier, and there was one guy, this little skinny drunk guy, who was right at the front, and every time one of the security guys would walk by, he'd be like, bop, he'd like tap him on the shoulder or tap him on the head, and they'd be like, stand back from the barrier, please, and he'd be like, oh, like touching the barrier just to mess with the guys. And I'm standing back watching this go down, and I'm like, all right, that guy right there is going to get thrown out in about 7 minutes. And sure enough, man, just a few minutes later, I saw him getting dragged out. And it was a good thing, though, because that's just one person being an ass like that. When there's a situation like that going on, that's all it takes to change it from, remember that time, to, oh, man, you remember that one time? I don't ever want to play at a show where somebody dies. I've been playing music about 20 years, and I can say no one's ever died at any of the shows that I've played at least not that I know of. And I'd kind of like to keep it that way.
Okay, is there any favorite show on this tour for you?
For me so far, I'd say it would probably be a tie between Berlin and... It's a three-way tie, actually, between Berlin, Cologne, and Dortmund. Those three shows were just really... Those shows were just on fire, man. They weren't the most perfect shows, like as far as, all of us on stage, you have a couple little twists and turns aside here and there. We're human, those are the moments when you look around at each other like, all right, who caught me? Oh, you heard that, okay. But those three shows just had that fire that makes the difference between, a good show and, man, a good show. And those are probably my three favorites, but I got a feeling that tonight's probably going to bury all three of those put together.
What about tonight's show? It's broadcast live in the radio. There are about, I think, 100,000 people listening to it. Are you a little bit nervous? You can't play any overdubs or anything like that?
Absolutely not. No nerves whatsoever. This is me personally. this is what I do. You know, I mean, I've played big festivals before in front of that many people. It's if you start thinking about that, then that's when you're gonna make mistakes. You know, if you just go up like, okay, it's another show, let's kill it. You know, that's the way to approach something like that. You can't go into it thinking, oh man, there's way more people listening this time, because then you're thinking too much, you know. And a good friend of mine always says, if you're thinking, you're stinking, and it's true.
And the first gig on the tour, did you get nervous on the first gig?
No, I don't get nervous. This is what I do.
Okay, that's great. So thanks a lot for the interview.
No problem.